first off, I want to thank you for saying I'm worth 5.1 million to do Mac Brown's job. That means a lot.
Yeah.
I want to backtrack a little bit. You said like there's kind of this rhetoric that comes out of the athletic program that we eat what we kill, so we're I guess entitled to these what some would say exorbitant salaries and stuff like that. But then you also mentioned that no other program on campus
Has that latitude.
has a luxury of that argument.
That's right.
Is that like? Can you explain why there's that disconnect there? Or
Well, it's not entirely a disconnect. Even though the sports, along with their other components of the university, housing, for example, parking, and so forth, are called, what do they call them? Independent enterprises or something like that. I forget the exact technical term for it. Nonetheless, if debt comes due, which it has for about 89 of the 119 to 120 Division I athletics programs in the country, the university is still under an obligation to pay for it. So, if the sports program goes deeply into debt, then the university has to pay for it. So one would think, therefore, it'd be in the university's it would be to the university's advantage to really make sure that the sports programs are part of the overall university budget, but that's not the case. One of the arguments, of course, made even by presidents here at UT is that this is great because at other institutions the sports program is losing money, so if we just wash our hands and let them run as a free enterprise, as long as they're making money and don't come begging to us, we'll just let them do what they want. But as I said, embedded within that are two problems. Most economists or accountants, if you talk to them, say that there's not really a fair evaluation of what the sports program derives from the university, just even in terms of ground space and so forth. So while they seem to be self-sustaining and paying for themselves, the kinds of cost analyses that are used in particular kinds of modern accounting aren't used, and so partly
the full cost.
Yeah,
I
the
guess
full cost. Yeah, but then secondly, also at UT, a few years back, they ceded to the athletics department the royalty and trademark revenues, and said effectively, you manage these, and then you keep 90%. Well, that's now generating $10 to $11 million a year, or even a little bit more than that. And the sports program keeps 90%, and 1% is returned to, 10% is returned to the academic side of the mission. Well, we wouldn't be closing the Cactus Cafe if there were a more equitable division, let's say a 50-50 division or something like that. So David Hillis in natural science in particular is somebody who has made that point repeatedly, that this really should be looked at again, because you're effectively giving, in other words, one says, okay, they're managing the trademark and royalty revenues, but one knows darn well that if they weren't connected to UT and the UT Longhorn tradition, weren't connected to a university, imagine if they just stepped outside the university and all of a sudden were like the Austin Toros. They wouldn't be selling T-shirts at the number that they are, because alumni come to campus and go to the co-op, which used to be a bookstore and now is a sports merchandising outfit, and buy things there, so that it's in no way a legitimate argument that they've really generated that 11 or 12 million. The university, the connection to the university of alumni, of students, of even people in the overall community are what is responsible for that high level of trademark and royalty. Again, with the savvy of the people over there. They're very, very shrewd. And before I continue, I want to say, point blank, that I have never, ever questioned the integrity of people like DeLoss Dodge, Chris Plonsky, Brian Davis, Rhonda Ryan, and so forth. People who are working within the rules that are set up by the NCAA. But that's another problem. The NCAA is pretty much controlled by television networks and by these athletics programs.
So the problem you see is more systematic than
Oh yes,
local.
yeah, that's exactly. It's a systemic problem,
Mm-hmm.
and as I said, there are only about 20 to 25 schools in the last 2 or 3 years that, under the current methods of accounting, turn a profit. And they turned something. Last year, they turned a $4 million profit.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of the
And what was UT's, just to compare?
UT. Well, again, profit is hard to get at because there are all sorts of ways of reckoning profit.
Yeah.
But the level of revenue generation, UT was number one with 138 million, and that was a good 20 million above places like Ohio State and so forth. But as I said, at the end of the day, the unspent portion was somewhere 3 to 4 million, but 2 million gets plowed back into a rainy day fund, and then whatever is left below that gets taken over to the academic side and is generally used by the president where he sees fit to try to give to undergraduate studies. That's one of the uses of these money's been used for, and so forth. But it's a paltry amount when you think of the revenues they're generating. How
much is it? Does it range from like $1 million?
Yeah, but somewhere between 1 and 2 million. And the president will cite that over the last 4 years they've given 6.6 million, so that works out to something like 1.7, 1.8 million a year. On average. But there's also a problem there. I mean, it's brought over to the academic side and then is viewed as kind of funny money.
Yeah.
And I wrote a piece, as you may well know, in the Daily Texan. Over $1 million of this particular revenue from the trademarks and royalties was used to gussy up room 212 in the tower. And with a imported hall-size handmade carpet from China and literal gold leaf paint and stuff like that.
Stuff really central to the academic mission.
That's right, not central to the academic mission, and really has no place.
Yeah.
I've taught in Europe many times, and you go to Oxford and Cambridge have great halls and stuff like that, but they had kings giving them money in the old days. And I guarantee you, and they have very, very wealthy alumni, these elite institutions. But you go to the red brick institutions around England, or I taught at the University Autónoma of Salamanca, Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona, rather, and for 6 months. And it's very functional offices, very functional classrooms, nothing. Certainly no gold leaf paint anywhere, and in other words, there are no frills. There are also no football programs, no basketball programs. It was, to me, heaven, because there were no
soccer programs. No soccer programs.
No,
there's
there's no university-sponsored athletics at all. Intercollegiate athletics is entirely an American invention, and so. But again, the point of the matter is, what encourages what I consider in this case the frivolous spending of a good portion of the money that's returned from athletics is the fact that one views it as not part of the university pot. Oh, this is, but in fact, it's money that was generated by funds that should have been under university control, but were seeded, and so that's not good either. So one of the principles that have been recommended by the head of the National Association of Academic Advisors in Athletics, the so-called N4A.
Okay.
He just had a piece in today's Chronicle of Higher Education, and one of the strong recommendations is that there be faculty committees formed that oversee the budget. What you have now, as you know, at UT is the Men's and Women's Athletics Council. But I mean, I'm just going to be honest. The appointments to those councils are from a slate that the faculty council recommends to the president, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to imagine that the president does some consulting with athletics ahead of time. So there's virtually never a person like me on this council. So everybody there is pro-athletics, and I'm not saying that they are not people of integrity and so forth, but they're not the kinds of people who are going to give an independent and critical view.
They come in with a certain mindset.
That's right. That's right. Because no one of that sort gets on it.